Well, good morning, YouTube. All right, guys, have you been wondering what I've been up to lately? Yeah, I've actually been doing quite a bit of stuff, but I've been really bad about pulling the camera out. Now, I'm in the middle of making a video on the tractor, trying to get another implement to fit, namely this one here, so that I can maintain my driveway. And I've actually got a video going on that, and we were going to do one thing. We changed directions. I don't even know if I'm going to put that video out yet or not, but I don't know, maybe I'll throw a couple clips of it in here, or maybe we will still produce that video even after I made my changes. I don't know. But that video got delayed because in the process of making the video, the tractor broke down, didn't want to start. I got that fixed. And then had an issue with the 3-point hitch, not wanting to raise or lower properly. And I was moving some dead trees around the other day with it, and it kept dropping the box blade down on the ground for no reason. And then I couldn't get it to come back up. Became a pain in the butt, so I parked it. I found a bunch of YouTube videos showing how to repair tractor hydraulics, not specific for this model of tractor, but it looks like a pretty simple job for the most part. But at this point, it's just a matter of finding the proper seal kit so that I have all the parts to actually rebuild it once I open the system up. We got our power gate working here at the house, but that video will be up on the Halstead Homestead channel. All right, you guys saw the video where I was working on the 550 doing the glow plug controller, but this Gale unit here is the other thing that I've been working on. So it's like a telehandler. It's a forklift with the big extendable boom, and we're having an issue with it not staying running after it's been sitting for a while. So somehow the fuel system was bleeding down. When it ran great, but we'd park it for a couple of days and then it would fire up and then run for like 8 seconds and then shut off. And then it would be really, really hard to get started again. It looks like somebody in the past had added this inline fuel filter and fuel pump to try to prime the system. Now, you shouldn't have to do that, but if there was a problem they were trying to compensate for, I get it, but it wasn't working. Now, this is powered by a John Deere 4.5 liter diesel engine, and I've never worked on a John Deere engine before, so I had to do a little research and figure it out. But all in all, it's a pretty simple mechanical injection system, pretty basic, pretty easy, and I think we've got the problem solved. But first, I tried to just replace the fuel filter and prime the system, hoping that was just a restriction. And unfortunately, that didn't fix the problem. So after that, I went through and I started checking all of the connections, and I found 15 different loose fuel line connections at the injectors, at the T's, all over the place. I snugged them all up, and after that, it seemed to do good. Now, it's been sitting here since, today is Thursday? It's been sitting here since Saturday. So we're gonna try to fire it up and see how it does. I'll let them glow plugs warm up a little bit because it is kind of chilly. Now, y'all couldn't see it, but I had my fingers crossed because I wasn't sure, but it didn't stall back out, so we're gonna call that a success. I mean, let's sit here and warm up for a few minutes and just make sure that everything's okay. All right, everything looks pretty good. Now, it did run a tiny bit rough when I first fired it up. I'm sure you heard that, but it is only like 35 degrees in here. So that's kind of a normal cold start on a diesel engine. It cleared up within seconds and it never stalled, which is the important part. Now, when I first started working on this thing, this engine was just covered with grease. Apparently this is a 2000 model, and here we are in 2024 now. So it's about 24 years old, and I don't think the engine had ever been cleaned on it. So I asked Joe if he minded if I cleaned it before we put it all back together and put the hood assembly back on it. And he said, yeah, I was hoping you'd want to clean it. I just can't stand working on dirty stuff, and I like things to be clean. So Joe said, hey, I've got this pressure washer with a diesel burner on it that gets the water nice and hot. He goes, that would be the best thing to use to clean that. I said, you're absolutely right. He goes, however, the last time I used it, I couldn't get it to work. So that became another project. So I pulled it outside, I played with it. It took me about 2 hours or so, and I finally got it to work where it's pumping water and producing hot water, which is really awesome. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever used a hot pressure washing system to clean a greasy engine, but oh my goodness, does it work fantastic. I was actually enjoying it. It was so satisfying just watching all that muck disappear just like that. So satisfying. I probably could have made like an ASMR video just on that. So yeah, I cleaned the engine, the transmission, the fuel tank, the axles, the boom, the hydraulic cylinders. This thing was covered with a layer. In fact, I didn't know that this was gray. I thought it was a black tank. That's how dirty it was. Absolutely amazing, the difference. I can't wait to use that machine on my tractor at home. So all in all, I'm really happy that that is all working good. And while I was doing all that in here, Joe has been running 3-phase power along that back wall and along this wall here behind me so that we get things like these milling machines and the big saws and the metalworking lathes and all that stuff up and running in here. Gonna have like a little mini machine shop fabrication area here pretty soon. Well, I've been working on some things over here at the shop as well. Not as much as I'd like to get done. We've had some huge issues with just nasty weather. It's been brutal cold and pouring down rain like a son of a gun. And it's really inhibited some of the stuff that I want to do that, requires me to be in and out. So not as much progress as I wanted to make there, but we're making some. And there is a video partially made on that, but not finished yet, that should be coming out to you guys pretty soon. And then Joe asked me to work on something that's in this building. Well, it wasn't in this building, but it is now. Yeah, guys, apparently I work on skid steers as well. So Joe had an issue with this not wanting to start. We believed it to be a bad starter, but it wasn't in here. It was actually over in that metal building. But working on it over there would have proved to be very difficult because it's got a low ceiling. In order to really access the engine compartment on this, you want to get the lift arms up as high as you can. And there's a safety lock on these. Once they're up, you can drive the locks out and they will stop it from coming back down even when the thing's not running, in case there's any bleed down in the hydraulics. But with the low ceiling height, we couldn't get the arms up. So we had to get it running to get it over here. And that took two of us because I was inside it turning the key to try to get it to start while Travis was standing up over top of it with a long pipe, reaching down there, kind of knocking the starter to get it to finally kick and turn over. Oh, we almost got it running, but then the battery was dead. So then we had to hook it up to my truck, run jumper cables to it, and jump start it. We finally got it running after quite a few trial and errors. So once we got it moved over here, we positioned it because there's no lights in this building to where the light from outside kind of shines on it. So I can see a little bit what I was doing. Got the arms up, pulled all the side covers off, and I removed the starter and I took it and had it rebuilt. So now you're pretty much all caught up. Today, I'm gonna finish putting the starter on this thing and hopefully we'll be able to drive this thing around in about half an hour and do some work with it. All right, while we were waiting for the starter to come back, I did put the battery on a maintenance charge and it looks like it's all set to go. Now, starter's relatively easy. It's only held on by 3 bolts, but one of those bolts is way in back here. A little challenging to get to with my big hands, but I was able to get it. I did have to remove the fuel filter in order to weasel it in there, just like I had to take it off to weasel the old one out. So now I need to run all the electrical connections. There are a couple wires that go over to some sensors over this way as well that technically didn't have to be disconnected to get this out. However, it made it easier to get the wire harness all the way out of the way, so I wasn't fighting with it. I didn't take a chance of breaking anything. So Gonna route all that back, plug it all back in, make all the electrical connections, put the fuel filter back on, hook the battery back up. Hopefully we'll be ready to go. Oh, I also forgot to mention that one of the washers on that little bottom bolt right there, I dropped it down inside this crevice with all this grass and crap. And it was quite fun trying to fish it out of there. But I got it. All right, all wired back up, even though the leads had to come over here and up there and over there. Well, I almost forgot the main battery ground, but there it goes. It's in now. All right, there we go. Fuel filter is back on. The air cleaner is back on. Now, truth is, I probably didn't need to take that air cleaner assembly off, but it was one less thing in my way. I was worried about blocking view, hitting my head on it, trying to lean in there to do stuff. It literally is only held on by 3 bolts. It was really easy to take off. And sometimes things like that, especially when you got big, bare paws like I have, having a little bit more room to work makes all the difference in the world. Well, other than putting the body panels back on the engine compartment, I think we're ready to test it and see if it'll fire up. All right, so right now I've just turned the key on and I'm checking for leaks. This doesn't have a hand primer on this fuel system, and because I opened the fuel system, typically you've got to reprime it when it comes to a diesel. But I didn't see a hand primer, but there was an electrical connection, so I assumed it had an electric fuel pump, and sure enough, I can hear it running, so I'm hoping that that has self-primed the system, and maybe it'll start. All right, guys, it's all warmed up, and as you can see, I've got all of the engine compartment covers back on it. You see this grease on the side here? I guess it's from where these pivot points come down, but all over it. I didn't realize it, and I leaned against it. Man, now my whole shirt's all sticky and nasty. All right, so I'm gonna move my truck out of the way, and we're gonna go play with it for a little bit. I don't really have a job that needs to be done per se, but I like playing with equipment, and I want to make sure that everything works right. So, I mean, it was just a starter. There were no other problems with it, but we're gonna go play with it anyways, just because I want to. Well, I spent about 20 minutes driving the thing around, and it's doing great. I'm not that good of an operator, though. What I did is I cleared a lot of this dirt. So we got this big pile here, and this pile, see where it's ending right here? It used to come all the way out to right about there. Yeah, so it came along here and came all the way up to about here, and then kind of cut over this way and over to there, which left me with kind of a narrow area to get between this corner of the building to get back to this garage over here. So granted, I didn't move the dirt anywhere other than up higher and around the corner a little ways. It gives me a little bit more open room here. It's pretty wet and slick because we've had a lot of rain lately. So a couple times I was losing traction with it, couldn't dig too big of a bite, but practicing with it. The controls in this are a little bit different than what I'm used to, and I kept wanting to push the pedals to make me go forward and backwards when that's actually for lift and tilt. And so I kept messing up, but the more I did it, the more fluid I got. Far from being good, but practice makes perfect, right? And of course, I tore up the ground pretty good doing so, because this thing leaves a lot of track, especially when you're turning. So then I just did a quick back drag with the bucket and just, somewhat flattened it all out. It's not level by any means, but at least it's not all rutted up. And as you can see right there, the sun is about to dip back there behind the mountain. So that means it's about time for me to head on back to the house. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this thing away. Now we still need to do a little bit more service on it. Joe wants me to go ahead and put a new fuel filter on it, change the oil. I knocked a bunch of dirt out of the air filter before I put it back together, and there was a lot in it. But on one of these machines, truth is, doesn't make a lot of sense to put a new air filter in it every time it gets a little dirty, because these work in such dirty environments, it just clogs up in 10 minutes again. So, not clogs up, but you know what I mean. It fills up. So I just knocked it out the best I could. I probably got about 1.5 pounds worth of dirt out of it. It was quite a bit. So it's running good, but yeah, we got to do all the fluid changes, and even the gel over at the shop that we looked at a little while ago, we've got to finish the service on that as well. We just did the fuel filter, but it still needs an oil change, oil filter. I think we need to change out the hydraulic filters on both machines, so on and so forth, and then they'll be ready to go. we really want to start cleaning up this property over here a lot. And Joe's got a lot of other equipment. If you look back over here, you see there's a big excavator sitting right there inside the building, a dump truck and a big bulldozer, lots of stuff. So when it comes time to clean this up, we've got the equipment to do it. It's not mine, it's all Joe's, but at least we got the equipment to make this place look nice. Well, guys, that is exactly what Amsoil Adam has been up to. You know, I wanted to mount the camera in the skid steer while I was working it so you guys could see some of that, but there was just no place in there. I wasn't prepared for like a camera mount, so there was no place I could get it to stay and you can actually get a view of anything, and it takes both hands and both feet to operate, so it just wasn't gonna happen. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Until the next time I see you, keep those engines running.